Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is 9 o'clock on a Sunday and it's time for a very special one-off video. Now, if you have not watched the review show special from yesterday at 9 o'clock, please do so. I looked at The Peak by Mr. Blonde and Collective and I gave it a full review. It's not terrible, it's not the worst trick in the world. However, there are absolutely some flaws and it's not the best video in the world. It's not the best trick in the world. But it made me think. And what it made me think about is peaking in general, because unfortunately, I think most people that release a peak, their approach is to bring out a wallet. Let's bring out a wallet. And that's just always what people do, right? I'm going to bring out a wallet. And I think that the closest we got to moving away from that was recently when Mark Oberon brought out the Insider, I think it was, which was a completely different way of actually doing it. It uses filed cards instead. And I think, to be honest, there's a general lack of creativity when it comes to creating different ways of doing peaks. A lot of people just basically say, right, okay, we're going to release a peak. Let's put it inside a wallet. And let's do, what everyone else has done for years and years and years, but let's make the wallet look a little bit different. Now, that's not always the case. The Orphic wallet for me is brilliant. The Shadow wallet is brilliant. The Stealth Assassin wallet is brilliant. But I wanted to think about different ways of actually achieving a peak. For me, it was just a creative exercise, a creative way of actually thinking, right, okay, if I was going to do a peak and I couldn't use a wallet, what would I do? Because I think when you're thinking about peaking, right, when you're thinking about peaking information, there's certain things that are really important. And I think the most important thing is the time delay between actually having the peak and the time delay between, in the case of a wallet, putting the card away in the wallet, there should be a massive time delay between that moment and getting the peak and then doing the reveal. And the reason for that is because I think that there's heat on the wallet. So if you take a card that's got information written on it and you put it in the wallet immediately, and then you immediately go and get the peak as you put it away, I think that's the wrong time to get the peak. I think there needs to be time misdirection. I think that's important. I've talked on this channel before about the difference between the actual moment of magic and the perceived moment of magic. When it comes to a peak, the perceived moment of magic is when you actually start telling them the information. But the actual moment of magic, the actual time that it takes place, is when you're taking that peak. And there needs to be a big distance between those 3 points, between the point of putting the thing that's been written down to one side, whatever that may be, getting the peak and then revealing the information. And one thing that I've always done, and as I've always said on this channel, I'm not the greatest mentalist of all time. I'm a magician, not a mentalist, but I do mental magic. And I have a few different routines where I peak information. And in the right time, right place, I'll do that. And one thing that I've always tried to do is reveal information about the person or about the thing that they've written down before I actually get the peak, because that disarms people completely. I'll give you an example. One thing that I actually do in the real world is I'll say, okay, here's what I want you to do. Let's say I'm using an Orphic wallet. Let's say I'm using an Orphic wallet. I'll say, right, I want you to write down the first name of somebody. It can be anybody in the world, but I've got 3 stipulations. Stipulation number 1, it needs to be somebody who's not here with you right now. So they can't be in the same room as you. Number 2, it has to be somebody that you know really, really well. Okay, so somebody you can pick up the phone to and have a phone conversation with without it coming across as awkward. So, for example, you can't put Tom Cruise on there unless you know Tom Cruise really well, and that's cool. But if you don't know them, don't put it down. And number 3, it has to be somebody who's alive and not dead, because that's kind of morbid. Have you got that person in mind? And they say yes, and you go, great, write it down. Let's say I'm using an Orphic wallet, pop it back inside the wallet. Brilliant, we'll put that down to one side. Now, with the case of the Orphic wallet, I have to open up the wallet to get the peak, to maybe take out another business card, for example. And if I just say, right, let me get another business card, that's too soon from when I put the peak inside, from when I put the card inside the Orphic wallet, right? So I want to reveal some information first. Now, using those parameters that I just told you, from doing this for years and years and years, I know certain things. Number 1, I know that it's either going to be a work colleague, a very close friend, or a relative. And the reason I know that is because the way I say it has to be somebody you know really well, blah, 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 blah. And typically, a man will always pick a man and a woman will always pick a woman. There's very rare situations where that's not the case, but generally, as a rule, that's what happens. So, and also, if I'm at a family event, for example, so let's say I'm doing this at a wedding where they've got lots of family there. Let's say I'm doing it at a wedding to the bride and groom. All of their family are going to be there. So they're not going to put down a relative. So I know it's going to be a close friend or a colleague. If I'm doing this as a corporate event, or I'm doing this in a restaurant, for example, there's a good chance it's going to be a relative. And women tend to go with relatives, while men tend to go with friends or work colleagues. So I can make a few educated guesses right now, and I can say, let's say I'm doing this at a corporate event, right? So to a woman. So I'll say, think about this, concentrate on the person. This is somebody that you're really close to, isn't it? Yeah, this is somebody like you're really close to. Is this a relative? And they'll go, yeah. And you go, yeah, I thought so. Yeah. And there's your first hit. And a lot of the time, and even if they go, no, you go, no, not a relative, like a close friend or a work colleague or something like that. Is that right? Yeah, close friend, right? But I can make it feel like I'm giving them a stack of information before I even go for the peak. And I can say, right, yeah, this is and a lot of the time, like probably 8 times out of 10, I'll even nail who the relative is. So if it's an older person, it's normally the daughter or maybe the granddaughter, but not very often. If it's somebody who's middle-aged, it's normally a sister if it's a relative. So I can kind of say, this person, are they younger? And if they go, yeah, they go a lot younger or just a bit younger. If they go a bit younger, it's a sister. If it's a lot younger, it's a daughter. Or if they go, no, I go, oh, sorry, okay, but they're a lot older, aren't they? Do you see what I mean? I can this is kind of like a cold reading type thing, but what it's allowing me to do is give information. And honestly, I'll do some videos in the real world of this, and you'll see the technique in action. It allows me to have 3 or 4 hits before I even go to actually start reveal the name. And when I get to the point where I've got the person's relationship to them, I'll say, now concentrate on their name. Concentrate on the first letter. I'm going to write it down, and then I'm going to go in to get my business card, and that's where I'm going to do the peak. They've already been given a stack of information, so now the peak happens completely off guard, right? And I think that's really important. And also, you want to be really careful when you get the peak. You don't want to act like it's anything important. So in the case of an orphan wallet, I don't want to go, it's almost like it's done in my peripheral vision. Let me get another business card. And I'll just look down for a second, or I'll look at it out the corner of my eye, and that's when I get the peak, which is why I had an issue with the peak that I reviewed yesterday, because in a lot of lighting conditions, you can't look it out of the corner of your eye. You have to be laser focused on it in order to get the information. So there's that, right? So there's that. So I've now got the thing in front of me, and I can start doing the peak, because I've got their name, so I can start doing the revelation now. Think of the first letter, blah, 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 blah. Oh, is that the one? Yeah. The point is, and look, you can look into the work of Louis Lavelle. You can look into, Louis Lavelle has an incredible download on the 1914 called Revelations. Look into some of the work by Chris Rawlins, he's really good. Look into, some of the work by D. Christopher and Mark Elston. There's a lot of people that are more knowledgeable than I will ever be when it comes to peaking information, but understand before I even go through these 5 methods, that understanding the basics of peaking is really important, which again is one of the reasons that I was a little bit negative towards the peak. It's because it was literally just a case of, this is how the wallet works, thanks very much, wham bam, thank you, man. So if we take wallets out of the equation, what can you do? Well, I've got 5 different things that you can do that I think would work really well. I'm going to break these down for you right now. 5 ways. Now, look, this is just as a result of 2 weeks worth of thought about peaking, and what would I do if I wanted to do a routine that involved a peak and I didn't have a wallet on me? How would I approach this? I'm not trying to sell these, I'm just giving you the information. I'm also going to take these methods out and work them in the real world. And I'm going to video it, and then I'm going to play the videos, and I'm going to come back to this. I'm going to do a future video in maybe a month's time, where I tell you which methods worked really well, if any, which methods didn't work really well, if any, and I'm going to give you some feedback and tell you which method I'm going to end up settling on. But this was just like a creative exercise to me. So if you want to know what I've come up with, this is the 5 methods that I'm going to be trying moving forward. Let's get into the first one. So the first thing that I'm going to be trying, and I think this has got real merit, is using out to lunch, but not in the way that out to lunch normally works. Now, if you guys don't know out to lunch, the idea is really simple. You have, let's say that I had a drawing of a stickman on here. You have a half a business card over there with elastic bands wrapped around it. I would have you sign down here. And when I take this out like this, it's still got your signature, but when I turn it over, a picture has appeared or whatever it may be, right? That's how out to lunch works. And I was thinking it'd be really cool to use out to lunch as a peak, but kind of doing it as a reverse out to lunch. So let me give you an example. What you would do in this situation is you would write on, I've got filing cards here, but you could do it on business cards or whatever you want to. It's just that I've got no business cards with me here right now, so I've just used file cards. Just write anything on there. Just do a scribble, right? And then put a half a business card, half a filing card on top. So I just cut one of these in half. Cut one of those in half, put it on top, and then grab yourself some elastic bands and wrap the elastic bands round. Now, when people use out to lunch, a lot of the time they recommend using broccoli bands, which are really thick rubber bands, and that's absolutely fine. And there's nothing wrong with using broccoli bands. And for years, when I did out to lunch, I actually used broccoli bands as well. However, these days I prefer to use normal elastic bands and have 3 or 4 of them. I just think it looks a little bit better, and I double wrap them around. I think that looks a little bit better. There you go. So what you're going to do now, so you have your stack of business cards, you have your stack of file cards, right? Now, the thought process behind this is very simple. So what you're going to do is you want them to write on the half a card, okay? So you want them to write on that half a card. So let me just make sure that, there you go. The whole point of the elastic bands is it hides the fact that this is half a card. So you want them to write on a half a card. Now, the way that I plan on doing this is there's 2 ways that I think would work really well. The first way is holding it up like this and looking away and saying, can you do me a favor? Can you write the name of, you know, your best friend at school or whatever you're going to say? Write the name there. And by holding this side, you're forcing people to write on that side of the card. If you don't like them holding on to it, what you could do is you could say, what I want you to do is on this file card here, I want you to write down the name of your best friend at school. So for example, my best friend at school, at primary school, was a guy called Darren. So I would write Darren like that. Now, don't write Darren unless your friend was Darren, and that's an incredible coincidence. But how I want you to write it is like that, really big, really bold, so that people can see it. Can you do that for me? That would be amazing. And then what you do is you give them the thing and then look away, and you say, when you've done it, just turn it over so you can't see. Now, you might want to pencil dot the back, maybe just in the corner, so you know which side the half a card is, right? So they would then, let's say their best friend was Sarah. So they would write Sarah, and you say, write it big and bold because I want you to show everybody, but don't show me. So they would write Sarah like this, okay? And then you would turn around and they would be like this. And you go, you turn away and you say, so there it is, the name right there. Now, because it's pencil dotted, I know this side is the real side. So I would just pull this out like this and I'd say, great, we're just going to take your card off and put it there. And now you put the business cards down. Now think about it. Their name is still there, but they don't realize, okay? You've put the rest of the stack away. You're not even concerned about the rest of the stack. And you say, I'm going to close my eyes, I'm going to look away, and I'm going to fold this up like this so that nobody can see. The reason, and I think you've got to have a reason for writing people, for getting people to write stuff down. And I think the reason here, I like the 2 reasons I like. The first reason is I want to write it down because that commits you. It commits you to that name. In other words, if you change your mind halfway through, this is the name that we're going for. And I have had people change their mind halfway through and it screwed me over. So this is the name that we're going for, whatever you've written on there. The other thing you can say is, I want you to show it to everyone, but if you say it out loud, I might hear it. So you write it down and then we'll show everyone, and that way everybody knows the word and I don't know the word. Use whatever justification you want to write it down. And then you fold it up and you put it over there. And you could even say, look, you can't see through this. There's nothing you can see. Is that fair? Now you start giving them some information. Okay, so this is your best friend at school. I want you to imagine that they're there in front of you. Can you imagine it? Fantastic. This is a woman, isn't it? This is a girl. You're imagining her as she was at school. This is secondary school, isn't it? Yeah, she's like 14, 15. She got blonde hair. Is it brunette? It's blonde, isn't it? Yeah. So maybe you're giving them some information, whatever. And then what you're going to do is you're going to just reach up and you're just casually just going to take another card for yourself. But rather than taking the card for the bottom, you're just going to take the top card and you say, look, let me see if I can do this. And you're just going to take the top card. And as I do that, I can see right there, clear as day, Sarah. So I take this card out and I just put the rest of this away. So now I can start writing this and I can say, well, hang on a second, concentrate. I'm going to see if I can go for this, concentrate, think of the first letter, whatever presentation you want to do. Okay, so you write something down there and you say, there you go, I've committed myself, I'm committed. And then recap, say, now think about this for a minute. I couldn't have possibly, now this is away in your wallet, right? In your pocket, out of sight, out of mind. You say, think about this for a minute. I couldn't have possibly known who you were thinking of, right? It's completely, couldn't have possibly known. It was completely random. But you thought of one person only. Is that right? Yeah. Let's just have a look. I'm going to look for the first time. I'm going to look and see who you've wrote down. You open it up now, and I just miscall it because I know the name Sarah. So I go, oh, Sarah. Okay, so this was your best friend at school. Okay, can you remember her surname? And I'm folding it back up and putting it away now. I act like this is completely unimportant. So I'm just miscalling. I go, oh, Sarah. Sarah, oh, fantastic. So can you remember her second name? And I'm just putting that away in my pocket now. Out of sight, out of mind. That's unimportant. And you say, remember, you didn't tell anyone this. My back was turned. I couldn't have possibly known. But I wrote this down. If this is Sarah, I think that'd be pretty good. How did I do? And then you show Sarah. And you hit it 100%. Now, the one negative of this is you're going to obviously not be reset immediately because you're going to have Sarah written on this card. But if you have a whole bunch of half cards prepared, it would simply just be a case of taking that half card off, grabbing another half card, putting it under the elastic band, and you're set to go again. I don't think it's a negative that the thing on the table is not actually what's written down, because I think that justification of just reading it and just going, oh, Sarah, interesting. Okay, what's the surname? Do you remember the surname? I think that just flies by completely. But that's the first, no wallet at all. And the peak happens completely on the offbeat because they've written it down. You take it off, you put it on the table. It all feels very, 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 very fair. And then you take the top one off and boom, you're ready to go. So that's the first method. Let's have a look at the second method. Okay, so the second method that I've got for you that I think could work really well is by using little square pieces of paper. Now, I've literally just got back from Blackpool. I'm heading to Eastbourne tomorrow and I'm filming this video before I go. And I meant to go to the office to pick up some Post-it notes and I didn't have time. So I took an A4 sheet of paper and cut them up into squares. But I think a really cool way to do this would be to have maybe a Post-it notepad or something like that. But the idea is applying coin magic to peaking. So what you would do is you would have a whole bunch of billets, pieces of paper, and you would scribble on one of them like that, and use a biro, not a Sharpie, so it's not bleeding through. And you would just have that balled up and you'd put it in finger palm, okay? So if you were going to use little billets like this, I'd probably put a paper clip on them, and I'd bring a pen out, and I'd bring out some paper clips, and I'd bring out these. I'd take the paper clip off, and I'd say, look, we're going to use two, and I've got this in finger palm the whole time, right? I'd say we're going to use two of these, so can you pick any two? So they pick two. And you go, brilliant. And you just put the paper clip back on, and you go, can you do me a favor? Can you ball them up into a little ball for me? So they ball them up into a little ball, and you say, we're going to try and do something. We're just going to use these two balled up pieces of paper, okay? What I want you to do is I want you to pick one of them. You're going to write on that one. I'm going to pick the other one. Whichever one that you leave me with, I'm going to write on. Which one do you want to pick to write on? And it makes no difference because they're both the same, right? So let's say they say this one. And you say, okay, what I want you to do is, and whatever you want to put on there. But your best friend at school, we'll say again. And let's say the name this time is Jane. So they would write Jane on, and you would turn your back or whatever. You would get them to turn their back, and they would write on here. And you say, write on there the name of your best friend at school, and then crumple it up into a little ball again. So they would turn around, they would write it up into a little ball. They would write on there Jane, they'd crumple it up into a little ball, and then they would come back and you'd say, hold it between your thumb and your forefinger. Fantastic. And you say, so no one could know that. You haven't shown anyone. The reason I got you to write it down is it commits you to that name. You can't change your mind now. Whatever name you've put on there, that's the name you've got to stick with. Is that fair? And they'll go, yeah. And you go, brilliant. I actually want, can you pass it me? So you take it off them at your fingertips and you go, what's your name? John. Can you hold on to this, John? And you do a shuttle pass. And you say, great, you hold on to that for me for a minute. So they hold on to that. And they think they're holding on to the one that person's just written on, but this is the dummy one with nothing on it, right? So they're holding on to it. And you say, hold it between your thumb and your forefinger. Make sure that I can't go anywhere near it. Okay, so John, do you trust John? Is John trustworthy? Are you with John? Do you trust him? You do. Fantastic. So this is the one that you've left me with. And you pick this up. And you say, this is the one you've left me with. I'm going to write on this one. And I'm going to try and pick up on what you've written. And when you do that, by the way, so this is the other blank one, you say, you do another shuttle pass back over here. So now this is the one with Jane written on it, right? And you say, I'm going to open up this one and I'm going to write down what I think that you're thinking of. So I want you to concentrate. Can you do that for me? Concentrate. And you don't want to open this up straight away. Like I said, you want to leave a bit of time before you open it up, maybe give them some information. And you open it up. And you say, right, okay. But notice I'm opening it behind my fingers because I don't want them to see this. So you can't really tell that there's anything written on it either because it's biro. It doesn't bleed through. But, you know, maybe to be careful, you'd hold your fingers behind it. And I can see blatantly there, Jane. So I'm going to write on this one the person I think you're thinking of. But I really want you to concentrate. And as I say that, I ball it back up and say, before I actually do that, I really want you to concentrate. I want you to imagine that they're there in front of you. And now I switch it back for the blank piece of paper. I say, I really want you to concentrate on the person that you're thinking of. Really imagine they're standing right there next to you. Can you do that for me? And they're going to go, yeah, and fantastic. Imagine what they look like. Did they wear glasses? They did. Okay, can you imagine the glasses on their head? Did they, did they have long hair or short hair? Really try and imagine everything. And it gives you a reason to crumple it back up again because you say you're going to write something. And you say, actually, before I do, I really want you to do this. I really want to imagine, and you're giving them further instructions. So now you come to write it again, and this time, now you open up the blank one. So now you're opening up the blank piece of paper, right? And so now you can hold this here, and you can say, right, okay, I'm gonna do this. I think I've got this, and you're gonna write down Jane. So you write down the same name, and you say, I think I've got this. Can you do me a favor? Can you hold on to this? This is what I think. So now you give it to them. And you say, now you've been holding on to that the whole time. I'm going to take it back off you. And you say, I'm going to open this now. I've made my guess. You're holding on to that. Am I okay to open this? And they're going to say yes. And you just switch that back for their original piece. So now you've switched it back. So now you open it up and you go, well, let's have a look and see what you've written on here. And when you open it up, it's the one that they wrote. They can see that it's right there. So from their point of view, he's been holding on to this the whole time. And you go, Jane, okay, that's really interesting. You know, how long have you known? Are you still in touch with her now? Do you still know? You don't. No, you've fallen out of touch. Okay, no problem. That's fine, Jane. And I couldn't have known that. And I wrote something, and you imagined them right next to you, and blah, 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 blah. And when you open up this one, you're going to find that it says Jane. Boom, it's a perfect match, which is really, really nice. And then you're instantly reset because you've got this dummy piece back here in finger palm. You can literally just take this, put it to this side of the thing, put the paper clip back on to keep it in place, put these into your pocket, and you reset, ready to go again. So you reset immediately. In fact, anybody who uses Chop, you could actually have the gimmick set up. Oh no, because you wouldn't run use a Sharpie marker. Ignore me, forget about Chop. You just have it here. So as long as you have this with a paper clip and a pen, you're good to go. And it's basically just a couple of shuttle passes, 3 shuttle passes and a couple of pieces of paper. And you can do a really nice routine that involves a peak, but from the audience's point of view, you're not even touching that. And the nice thing is, compared to the first version, you're not having to do a miscall. When you take that piece of paper back and you open it up, it's as it's meant to be, which is really cool. So that's the second method I came up with. Let's have a look at the third method. Okay, so the third method that I thought about was using a box and using a card box, because I thought a lot of the time when I'm gigging, I've got a pack of cards in front of me anyway. So if I'm going to have a pack of cards in front of me anyway, I may as well use it as a peak device because I've probably done a card trick. So with this, this is a really simple, and this is, out of all of them, this is the only one that I've actually gone and done and tried out. And you can see that I have, because you can see here when I tried it on somebody at the House of Secrets, and I was using it as a playing card thing. So what I was doing, you could use it to peek anything, but how I did it at House of Secrets is I had a deck of cards, and I had somebody think of a card and write it down, and I'll explain what all of this is in a minute. And then I went to somebody else who'd been shuffling the cards, and I said, you've been shuffling those, great, you're just going to pick a card. And I did a classic force, and they picked the card that that person was merely thinking about. Now, how I did this is I created something that I like to call the peek box, which is ridiculously simple, but quite deceptive. What I did is I took a pack of cards. Now, these are, you need a back design like this, right? So you need a back design like this. And all I did is I took a craft knife, and I just cut here, here, and here, and I scored here. So I've created a little hinge, but what's really cool is if you push down, it locks in place underneath the hinge, right? And a deck of cards will go in there, and that box will not open. You can show it completely on all sides, and it looks completely normal. But in actual fact, you've got access to this window here whenever you want it. So how I did the routine, you could do it to get any information, but how I did it at the House of Secrets is I took a pack of cards out, and this is a blank deck, so that's a bit silly, but I took a pack of cards out, and I had the cards shuffled. Then, while they were shuffling the cards, I took a blank card out my pocket, and I said, this is a blank card, there's nothing written on it, but we're going to use this because in a second you're going to think of a playing card and you're going to write it down. The reason I get you to write it down is because it commits you to that playing card. I don't want you changing mine halfway through. So whatever card you've thought of, you're going to write down here. And I took a Sharpie marker out and I said, for example, if you think of the King of Hearts, write KH. Don't put King of Hearts, it's going to be too big, just put KH. If you're thinking of the Seven of Diamonds, put 7D. You get the idea, and they say, yeah, and you say, brilliant, just put it there in the circle. So the reason for them to put it down here in this part of the card is because I gave them two examples up here, right? So now the only place that they can put it is this. So they are doing that, they're looking away, and as they do, I take this box, and all I do is I put my finger inside it and push, and that opens up the little flap that I've created here. So now I can put my thumb on this flap without pushing too hard. If I push too hard, it's going to lock it in place, and then it's hard to get it out from this side. But if I put my finger in and then I just put my thumb over it without pushing down too hard, it's not locking, so I can just keep it like that so it looks okay. And then I say brilliant, and I turn the box around. Now everything looks fine. I'm keeping my finger here, stopping that from opening. I put my finger here and I say, brilliant, can you do me a favor? I'm going to look away. I'm just going to put this in here and close it up. Is that fair? And they say yes. And then I turn it towards myself. Now, all I'm going to do, and I actually need to push the thing in there. Let me do that again. Stupid Craig. There we go. So, there we go. So you're here. Let's do this correctly. So you put this in here like this, and you close it up, and you're not looking. So as you turn around like this, as you turn it around, don't push the flap in like I did that time. As you turn it around, it's still loose. So now I can just lift up with my thumb, and I lift up with the thumb, and I'm getting that peak right there. So look at the view I've got right now. Okay, now I'm looking at that in my peripheral vision. So I'm just lifting up the thumb and I go, fantastic. Now I couldn't possibly know the card that you're thinking of, and you've been shuffling the deck the whole time, right? Brilliant. When you finish shuffling, hand me the deck back. And as I say that, all I have to do is push down with my thumb. That locks that flap in place, and I can even put it that way up if I want to, or this way up, it makes no difference. And now all I did is I spread through the deck. I called the 9 of spades and I did a classic force on them, and it was a, apparently I never knew the card and it matched. It was a fun little trick to do. However, you could use this for something else other than a playing card. So there's no reason why you couldn't use this for a business card using the same thing. So you get the you get the thing opened, you turn it round, you put the business card in, you just make sure that they write on the bottom part of the business card. This goes in. Now you can put this down on the table without actually closing the flap. So I can put this down here, I can start giving them information, I can then pick this up and say, now remember, this has been here the whole time, right? I have no idea what you've written. And in that action, I've got the peak again. Look, there it is, I've got the peak. So now I can just get the peak and I can say, look, let me try that. And now I'm into the mind reading or whatever it is that you want to do. So In the context of my performances, a pack of cards is an organic object, because I will always have done a card trick. The cards will probably be out the box, so it makes logical sense for me to put it away and this way I don't need a wallet. I literally just take a business card out and I go, I want to put it somewhere where I can't see it. This pack of cards, that's perfect. Let's put it inside there, and at the end, you just take it out. And what's nice is you can take it out that way round and show that it's been in there the whole time. And then the cards can go back inside the case. You can close it up and you're good to go, and the flap's engaged and you're ready for the next performance. So that's the peak box. That's your third method for getting a peak that doesn't use a wallet. Okay, so the fourth method of using a peak is, and I've just ordered something which is going to be perfect for this. Mia Yedid has just brought out something called a mirror coin, which I'm going to be reviewing on the review show soon anyway. But it's basically a $half size thing that's a mirror. It's a mirror, but it looks like a coin, right? The fourth idea is very, very simple, which is basically using a mirror coin or a small mirror in finger palm to basically get the peak. Now, I've tried this with a bigger mirror and it worked brilliantly, but I want something small that can be finger palmed, and I think a mirror would be absolutely perfect, because if I have one of Mia Yedid's mirror coins in finger palm here, I can just bring out a business card or a file card. I can have them write down something, and then I can take it back. I can look away and I can say, fantastic, I don't want to see what you've written. Are you happy with that? There's no way I can know is that. And now I'm looking at the finger palmed mirror coin and I can see what's on the bottom half of this thing. So as long as I force them to write in this section just by drawing a circle, I can get an exact peek at that, and it doesn't look like I can see everything, but I'm looking directly at my fingers, so I can get that finger palmed glimpse immediately. And it's the idea of using a shiner but for peeking information, and all I have to do is look back for a split second. So all I have to do is look back, get the peek, and say, actually, can you take that and fold it up for me? I don't even want to fold it up myself, just in case you think I can see something. So it's a case of, you give them the thing, they write something down, and it'll work with a business card, it'll work with a file card, absolutely not a problem. You take it back and you hold it in this position, you're looking away, you come back for a second, you get the glimpse, and then you just give them this, they fold it up like that, they hold it into their hand, and they've got the peak, and you've got the peak already. Now this is deviates from what I said at the beginning, which is, hey, it's really important to put a time misdirection between the peak and between when you reveal information, which is true. I do believe that, but I think in this case, it's very, very easy to just say, hey, you've written it. Now you could, if you wanted to, have them put it down on the table. And you could, if you wanted to, talk to them for a little bit and say, actually, can you do me a favor? I want you to take this and fold it up in half, and then you pick it up, and then you get the peak. That's absolutely fine as well. But I think it'd be a case of playing around with the mirror size, playing around with the lighting as well. This is going to work really well in certain situations. And also, I don't think you'd want to do a word on this. I think it'd want to be a drawing, because a word would be in reverse font. Now, I think if you had a number, that wouldn't be a problem. A number or a drawing wouldn't be an issue. But I just like the idea of literally there's nothing. They write it, they put it down on the table, you pick it up, give it them, they fold it up, and in that action, you've got everything that you need. I think that's really smart. So that's another one to try that I will be trying out and letting you know how it goes. Okay, the final idea I've got for you, I've got no pay envelopes at the moment. I've just ordered a load more. But the final idea I've got for you is based on the old, if you've ever seen Terry Seabrook's bill in Wallet Routine, which is one of the best, by the way, one of the best presentations for note in Wallet that anybody has ever done, ever in the entire history of Magic. What he uses, which is a classic way of doing it, what he uses in order to steal the bill out the wallet is he uses a slit in a pay envelope. So he's got a slit in a pay envelope. Let's just say this is a pay envelope. There's a slit there. So as he puts the bill in from the flap side, it's going through the slit at the bottom, which is then obviously going into a finger palm so he can steal it out, right? Now, my thought process is, if you had a pay envelope and you put a slit here on the address side, not on the flap side, so the flap side's here, you have a slit on the address side, but what you're going to do is you're going to get some sellotape and you're going to tape this part of the pay envelope down. So you're going to tape this, but you're going to put tape here basically over the slit that you've created, not the top part of the slit, but the bottom part of the slit. So that's going to be taped down. What you could then do is you could put a business card into that pay envelope. And as long as you have the pay envelope this way, the business card will stick out, right? So you can take out the pay envelope like this, and you can say, I've got an envelope. Inside the envelope, I've got a business card. I want you to write down something on that business card. If you could, that would be amazing. Thank you very much. You're then going to take it and turn it over like this. Now, remember, this is the flap side. So you're going to look away and you say, can you do me a favor? I want you to take that card face down so I can't see it, put it inside the wallet, and then and make sure it's self-sealing envelopes, right? So I want you to take the business card, put it inside the envelope, and then shut it shut, and it'll seal itself. So they're going to do that, and you're looking away the entire time. Now, because you've sellotaped this section down, that is automatically going to go through the slit. But from their point of view, it's going to feel like they've put it into the envelope. They're not going to have to feel for where that slit is because it's stuck down. So it will automatic. It can't go into this part of the envelope because that has been stuck down. It's impossible for the card to go into that side of the envelope. So all that's going to happen is they're going to push it in and it's going to come out. And your fingers are just going to just hold it in place. And then they're going to seal it shut, and it's going to look so incredibly fair. You can hold it at the tips of the fingers. From their point of view, they've wrote on a business card, they've put it inside an envelope, and they've sealed that envelope shut. Now you can lift it up and you can say, you can't see through the envelope, can you? And in that action of saying you can't see through the envelope, you blatantly, you've got the peak. I can see everything that's on the business card. So now I can take that business card and I can put it down on the table. I can put it away in my pocket if I want to. I can put it down on the table. I can say, right, keep an eye on it, blah, 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 blah. I can do whatever mind reading that I want to do. And at the end, I can just take this out and open up this side, take the business card out, which destroys the evidence, by the way, and give them the business card back with their word written down as a souvenir. If you need me, book me, or whatever it may be. But you're not using a wallet, you're using an envelope. And because of the use of the envelope, it's automatically there, ready to be peaked. And you can put it down on the table, or you can put it into your hand, or you can hold it here, and you can get the peak whenever you want to. And you've got a natural reason to get the peak. You go, you can't see through this, can you? No, of course you can't. Look, and then it destroys the evidence when you tear the envelope open. It actually destroys everything. Not that anybody would want to look at anything anyway, because all they're going to want to look at is the business card, because you give it them as a giveaway. So there you go. That's again, I'm going to be trying this out, but that's another way of doing it, using Terry Seabrook's method of actually getting a bill out of an envelope. So there you go, guys. That's another video in the bag. Now, as I say, over the next 3 or 4 weeks, I'm going to be trying these out in the real world. And I'm going to see which ones work the best, which ones don't work well. I'm going to be giving you the feedback on all of these. I want to know what you think. Is the one that you like? Is the one that you don't like? Are there some that you think is really good or not so good? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, do you want to see more videos like this? I think this was a fun thing for me to put together. It was a nice creative exercise of thinking of ways that I would approach a peak. If I was going to actually create something that uses a peak, this is kind of the approach I'd get. Let me know what you think. Do you want to see more videos like this? And if so, what about? Anyway, thanks very much for watching. If you haven't already done so, please go and check out the NETRIX. It's www.thenetrix.com. And go sign up and try it out for a month. I'd really appreciate it. Like I said, do you want to see more videos like this? Let me know. And more importantly, I really want to get a dialogue going on this. So what do you think of the 5 methods? Rank them. Which one's your favorite? Is the one that you don't like? I'd love to know. I'm going to be back again tomorrow with another video. There's a stack load more coming up on Magic TV. So stick around. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you again soon. My name's Craig from Magic TV.